Welcome to Python class, and today we'll be looking at Python list. So we're looking at list today, and under the list attribute, we'll be looking at we'll be looking at Python list itself. We'll be looking at how to access list item. We're looking at how to change your list item. We're looking at how to add list item, remove list item, loop list comprehension, sort list, copy list, join list. And I'll be adding the link to other list method that you will need to make research on. I will be adding the link where you can get it to them in the description below for this video. Yeah, so let's start with the list. Let's start with the list. So first, we know that when we have a list, we have to declare a variable to hold our list. What is a list? This is what we call the list. A rectangular bracket represents a list in Python, and a list consists of values. It consists of values, and we might not know the numbers of length of values that it is, but the values can be either numbers or it can be strings, and it can be list of list. Also, it can be a list that has a dictionary in it. That is list of dictionary or list of sets, which is a tuple. So that is what we have. But now let's start from the smallest aspect of a list, and let's start with a string. So we have, let's make use of animal named dog, cat, duck, pig. All right, this is a list. Once you have something like this is a list with a value. But when you have ordinary empty list like this, so once you have the square bracket, is a list, but it has no value, which is an empty list. But once you have values in it like this, it becomes a list with value. Now we want to attach this list to a variable, so we are going to call it my list, and we are going to attach it to a variable, which means this list here is now a value to this variable my list. So anytime we call my list, we'll be able to get this list. All right. So that is an example of a list. So now let me call the list. Let me print out the list. Let's output the list. Print my list and close. I don't know if you noticed something while we were coding. We normally write a code when we write a print. We put a code, then we put our write up in that code. That is when we are putting a code inside a print variable like this, inside a print statement like this, it means we don't the statement, like this statement is not a variable, so we are going to wrap it in a quote. But when you have a variable, you don't need to put a quote around it, rather you only write the variable out this way and it's going to work fine. So when we print it, you can see that we now have our list of animals, which is dog, cat, duck, and pig. Then let's look at list items. In a list, we have ordered list, and when we talk about ordered list, it means the item has an order, and that order will not change. If you add anything to the list, if you add a new value to the list, it will continue from the last position. So there is always an order in the way the list item are arranged, and that order is what we call the index. So the first item is the one in the index 0. The second item is one in index 1, index 2, index 3. So this dog is index 0, and that is why when we want to print dog now, we are going to say print my list, and we use the index to locate what we want to print. Location 0, 0, can you see? And we close the bracket. Remember, location 0, which is the index 0, is the first value in the list, and that is why we are going to have dog. So that is the order of arrangement. So when we add another item, it's going to add up to the last index, which is index 4. It's going to become index 4, and when we add another one, it's going to become index 5, and so on and so forth. So that's how the order of item are being listed. Then also we can change a list or add a list. We can change it with any variables or values we have. Then we are going to test that when we get to how to change a list. So just bear it in mind that we have a way we can change a list value and so on. Then we can also allow duplicate of a list. We can allow duplicate of a list. So we can allow the duplicate of the list values. So in that list, the items can be duplicated. That is, we can have two values in it. So for example, when we are adding what's the name when we are adding a value to a list, then you will see that automatically we are going to have the same name of a value in that list, which means a list, two values can be the same in one list. Like now we can have dog, cat, dog, cat, dog, cat. That's multiple values inside one list, but each of them are occupying different positions in terms of the order. So we can also check the length of a list by saying print length my list. It's going to give us 4. Why is it giving us 4? We have 0, 1, 2, 3, and if you look at it, it says 0, 1, 2, 3. We stop at 3, but the main value are what? 4. That's why we have 4. So then also in the list we can have data type. We can have data type also in the list. We can have true, false, true, false, true, false. For example, list 1, let's say list 1 equals apple, banana, apple, banana, cherry. Then list 2 equals 1, 5, 7, 9, 3. And I'm going to add 1 again just to show you that you can have duplicate numbers or duplicate values in a list. And see that it doesn't throw error. Then list 3 equals true, true, false, false. True. These are lists. So if I say print, I want to print the three lists. List one, list two, list three. And see, we have all the lists printed and they are all in a list. So you can have data type in the list. It does not affect what you are doing. You can also have a mixture of numbers, string and data type in your list. For example, you can say list 4 equals apple, 45 true, male. Print list 4 and see that we have mixture of numbers and then string and everything in one list. So we can also check the type for us if you want to know, okay, what kind of data is this? You want to know if it is an int, a string, a complex, or it is a dictionary or a list or set or whatever type you want to do know, you need to use a type function. So in that case, we can say print type list 4. What do we mean by type list 4 is that the type will tell us the type of data types or the types of data it is, and the print will only print it out. While what are we checking the type of data it is? We are checking list 4 to know the type of data it is. So when you press enter, you are going to have a list. So it's going to tell you that, oh, this item that you are checking the data, it is a list, so that you will be able to know how to unpack the item in the list. Then when we talk about list constructor, you can use the list constructor to create a new list. For example, let's say my list to equals to list. This is a list constructor. List, you can see you want to create a list and you are using a list constructor to create the list. List into bracket, and you open another bracket, go to the middle of the second bracket and type apple, comma, mango, comma, cherry. Then now in this case, press enter and print my list two. We're going to have a list. And see now, so it's either you define the list directly at a go, or you can use the list constructor to define the list by itself. So also, we go to the next phase, which is how to access a list item. So accessing a list item. So now we want to look at how to access a list item. For you to access a list item is very simple. First, you have to declare your list and be able to know that you want to make use of your index to locate whatever item you want to get the values. So remember, in list we have index and values, but in dictionary we have key and values. So we are making use of the index number to fetch out the value of that list item. So now we have my list two. We have several lists here: list one, list two, list three, list four. We have my list two, we have my list. Anyone we want to call, we can call it the way we like. So I'm going to use any one of these lists that we have here, and I will call out the values. So I'm going to make use of the list 3. Oh, sorry, I will make use of list 2. So let me first of all print list 2. Let's see if it's still available. All right, it's available. So list 2 is what I will be using for this accessing. Now, so that you won't get confused, let me recap for you. In a list, it is ordered in terms of index number, and the index number starts from 0 upward if you are counting from the left hand side to the right hand side. But when you are counting from the right hand side to the left hand side, it starts from -1. So now we want to access the items in the list. That is, we want to look at each item that we have in the list one after the other. First, we know that when I print the list, it has a square bracket. And if we are to access the list, that means we want to remove that square bracket in order to have access to the main value itself. So in that case, we are going to say print, what is the list we are using right now? We are using list 2. So we have list 2. Now, what number do we want to call out? We want to call out number 9. We want 9 to be printed for us. How can we access 9? We start our count from this level. We have 0, 1, 2, 3. That means I'm going to put list bracket and I will put 3. That is the index number. So the index number is 3, and automatically this way means list 2 is the variable name that store the whole list. Now inside this variable name, I want you to go what I'm telling the system is what I'm trying to explain how the system works. So I'm indirectly telling the system that okay, print list 2 for me, but in that list 2 I want only the value at location 3 to be printed. That is why I have list 2 location 3, and if we press enter, we have 9. That is how to access your list. If I want to access all the list, I want to see all the values in the list, all I will do is print list 2, and inside this place, instead of me to put 3, I will just put this quote. Remember, I did this when we were dealing with slicing. That is, when you don't define where it should start and where it should end, definitely it will pick from the index 0 to the last index. So when I press enter, it's giving me the list. So also, if I want to make sure that okay, it should give me everything, I can say 0 to ending. So you can see now it's giving me everything again. And if I say from 1 to ending, to give me this as a list. Are you getting it now? But if I want it each values one after the other, then I can just pick by their positions. I can say what? List 0 print, list 1 print, list 2 print. And I can use for loop to loop through and allow you to print it one by one, like for X in list 2, print, what am I printing? I'm printing X. So it's going to print X. It will look through all the values in list 2 and print me all the values. So that is, it will go by saying, okay, this is 1. Once you see this one, oh, X is 1 here, we'll print that one. It will come to again for every, it means for every X value in list 2, it should print all the value for me. So that's what it's going to do. And once I press enter, it's going to show everything one after the other by picking their index number to loop through. When we say we loop through, that means it's going through them. It will go through it the first time. After picking the first number, it will go through again. Pick the second number, it will go through again. Pick the third number, it will go through again. Fourth number, it will go through again. Sixth number, and so on and so forth. And once it's through with the list, with the length of the list, it will print out everything at a go. And that's why we have this. So that is that under accessing a list. And I have taught you how to access a list with negative index, picking from the negative side to the positive side. So if we are to look at it now from here, from the negative, we have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So if I want to print now and I say print -6 to ending, I'm going to have everything. When I say print -5, it's going to start from where? 5 downward. Can you see? If I say print -5 to -2, it's going to print from 5 and stop at 9. Remember I told you that in a list, the last number that is ending the list, that last number cannot be that last number will not be included when it's looping through the index, because it's going to stop at the number before the last number you specify that it should stop. So that is how it is being carried out as as per the loop. Then we have range of index. You can specify a range of index by specifying where to start and where to end the range. When specifying a range, the return value will be a new list with the specified items, and that is what I just did now. We have specified the list range by saying from -5 to -2. That is the range specification. That is the range specification. Then you can also carry out every form of slicing that we've done earlier with string in this one by doing it from start to finish, which I have done here from the beginning to the end, just putting a diacritic that you did not define the start, you did not define the ending. It will also print out the details. So those ones are slicing, which we've talked about. You can specify the starting point and does not specify the ending point. You can specify the ending point and do not specify the starting point. All these are forms of slicing, and all those slicing we've done with string can also be carried out using can also be carried out in a list data. So when you are working on that, kindly take enough time to study your slicing. Is that clear now? Then I have make use of if statement in this. Like we did earlier in string, that we are checking if a particular word is in the list of words. We can also check if a particular number is in my list too. Let's say if 5 is in if 5 sorry if 5 in in list 2, then we have print 5 is available. Can you see that? So if I write again, if 5 not in list 2, can you see that nothing was done? So we we are to look at that one after the other. You can also say if 5 is in if 5 not in list 2, then print 5 is not in list 2, else print 5 is available. You see that? Because 5 is there, it's giving us 5 is available. Now we are going to look at a value that is not in list 2, which is, let's say, 2. 2 is not there. So let's quickly use that. If 2 not in list 2, if 2 not in list 2, print print 2 is not available. Else print 2 is available. Can you see that? It's telling us 2 is not available. So you can also use conditional statement to determine if 2 is available or is not available in the list. So let's quickly have a break. We'll continue when we return back to the class. Thank you.